Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the PrimateCast. Let me start out by saying I am sorry that we've had such a long delay between podcasts. In the meantime, Dr. Chris Martin has actually left the Primate Research Institute in Japan to move on to a postdoc at Indianapolis Zoo, where he's working now with orangutans. And that means that I'm here all by myself, or I was, until this happened. We've brought on a summer intern, so I'm sitting here now with Miss Sophie Bernstein. Hello.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Great. Well, it's nice to have you here. And so you are a doctoral student here at the Primate Research Institute. Can you tell us a bit about what you're doing?
Sure, yeah. This is my first year of my doctoral program. I am lucky enough to be able to work with one of the leading researchers for vocalizations in non-human primates, Dr. Masataka, in the Cognition and Learning section of PRI. And I will be studying a species I've been looking at before in Mount Wangshan, China, Tibetan macaques. And the topic of my doctoral research is the vocal repertoire of Tibetan macaques.
And if I'm not mistaken, you did a little bit of podcast listening before you came to Japan, didn't you?
I did. When I found out about the SciCast program, I saw the podcasts that were listed, and I thought, what a brilliant idea. There are so many international researchers that come and go through PRI. And I thought that it was just such a great opportunity for all the listeners to be able to see how many people come and go through here. And I was actually really inspired by that. And I wanted to be a part of the podcast so I would get to meet these incredible people and actually get to know them one-on-one, because you hear about them and you read all these papers, but then putting the face with the papers, it's so cool.
Yeah, and on that note, just as a bit of promo for upcoming podcasts here, this coming weekend, we actually have the Japan Society for Animal Psychology annual conference happening in Inuyama, very near the PRI, and we're going to be able to go there on location and do some interviews with some of the invited speakers.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it. There are definitely a lot of people coming from a bunch of different backgrounds I really want to get a chance to talk to.
Yeah, and it's not just primatology stuff. Ultimately, this is a conference on comparative psychology, so one of the main interests is learning a little bit about what makes humans human, from a cognition standpoint. And so there's all kinds of studies ranging from elephants to rats, of course, monkeys, and other things as well.
Yeah, and it's actually the first meeting that's going to be conducted entirely in English.
Yeah, so this will be a great chance for us to chat with people and hopefully share some interesting stories with you. So look for that in the near future. So before I get too ahead of myself, I do want to say that we're planning to get an interview with Chris in the next little while here. So on an upcoming podcast, you will hear more about what he managed to do here, what he's doing now, and prospects for us getting back together on the PrimateCast. But in the meantime, we've got Sophie here, and we're going to start basically this summer by going through a few archived podcasts that Chris and I managed to rack up and just haven't had the opportunity to provide yet. And so that was a perfect venue, I think, for us to bring on Sophie. And hopefully she'll be able to enrich this experience for everybody here. So the first archived interview that we want to present to you here today is by Dr. Miho Inoue-Murayama, who's a professor at the Wildlife Research Center of Kyoto University. And so her main research topics kind of center around behavioral genomics. And she's doing a couple of cool things at WRC, like one, building the DNA zoo. So Sophie, can you tell us a bit about the DNA zoo?
Sure. Yeah, the DNA zoo is an incredible bank of all of these samples collected from over 23,000 individuals of, I think, about 200 different species. And not only do the samples exist there within the bank and are available to researchers, but for each sample, they have data on the geographic location of where the sample was collected, and also different characteristics of the individual.
Yeah, it sounds like a really cool project. I don't think she's going to get into it during the interview here, but she does talk about some of her other ongoing projects, which are quite elaborate and extensive and involve many, many researchers around the world. But in addition to Miho, we're also going to hear from a couple of her international students, just to hear what they are getting up to and how she's been involved in these various projects around the world. So maybe we should just get right into it.
Yeah, let's get started.
Here we go with Dr. Miho Inoue-Murayama talking about her research.
My research interest is to survey the diversity of within and between species, genetic diversity. Especially I'm interested in the genes relating the behavior trait or personality.
Okay.
And also, we are collaborating with many researchers, field workers, to survey, who want to know the diversity of endangered animals.
So Miho, we're here actually well aware that you are in quite high demand from field workers around the world, and even those with PsyCast. Can you talk a little bit about some of the projects you're involved in?
So now I'm collaborating with, involved in the project of conservation of golden eagle
Okay.
in the northern area of Japan. About the population is estimated to about 600 in Japan. So they are endangered. And my colleague collect the samples, feathers or feces or eggshell.
Okay.
From their nest,
Yeah.
and extract DNA and survey the diversity of microsatellite or mitochondria.
Okay. Now, is that a cliff-living species, the golden
Yes.
eagle?
Yes.
So is it quite difficult for them then to
How do they get
Yeah,
the
people
eggs?
climbing
up the cliff? That sounds like a fun job.
That's right.
Yeah.
And also, I'm collaborating with many zoos and aquariums. And we, for example, I asked the zoo to collect the hair or feces samples of lesser panda.
Okay.
To survey the their behavior trait by questionnaire, and also we genotype and compare the data and to find the genes relating their personality.
So is that project just within species or also between species?
Both.
Okay. And how do you compare personality across species? Are there similar measures?
Yeah. I'm collaborating with the group in Edinburgh University in UK, and they developed the personality questionnaire for primates, and based on 54 questions. Using the same questions, we ask the evaluation to the zoo staff of chimpanzee, gorilla, and gibbon, and Japanese monkeys, and they compare their scores. So between species and within species. For within species, there is an individual difference of stress susceptibility and or some relationship between individuals in the group, depending on their own personalities. So if we know their personality more exactly, precisely, not only observation but also genetic data, we can avoid some problems and develop their more comfortable keeping conditions for them.
So can you see any other applications of this personality work in, say, zoo or sanctuary settings?
Sometimes they want to move the individuals to the another zoos, but how to say their combination of within groups or pair making is very difficult. In gorillas, chimpanzees. So sometimes they are very they make very good relationship, but sometimes they are very aggressive with each other. So the such if we can figure out such personality trait of each individuals, we can combine the best combination.
Right.
That's a good idea.
It's a very interesting genetic matching of personality traits.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're joined also here by a couple of Dr. Murayama's students. We have Sharif Ramadan from Egypt and Christopher Adenyo from Ghana, both PhD students. And we're going to hear a little bit about what they're doing here in Japan. So Ramadan, why don't you tell us about your research?
I'm doing genetic diversity and polymorphism within some poultry species like chicken and pigeon and quail.
Yeah.
Mainly for conservation. In Egypt, some local chicken breed and pigeon breed, the population number getting decreased because company and people prefer commercial breed which produce more meat and more egg. So local breed, some local breed in danger and population decrease. So I try to survey genetic diversity and try to take or do a decision about conservation of local breed.
Mm-hmm.
And for pigeon also, I'm interested in polymorphism of functional gene related with racing and homing ability. So I'm trying to search for any polymorphism that can be used as a genetic marker for selection of high racing ability of pigeon.
Okay.
So I collected some sample from Japanese racing pigeon and some non-racing pigeon from Egypt and survey one functional gene, lactate dehydrogenase gene, and found some polymorphism. So these polymorphism can be used as a genetic marker for selection of high racing ability.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Japan and in Egypt and in many countries in Europe and America, there is a pigeon racing competition or champion.
Okay.
So I'm interested about this point.
So is this something in Egypt then that's widely recognized? Then this kind of loss of the local genetic diversity, is it kind of a priority for research?
In Egypt?
In Egypt, yeah.
For pigeon and chicken?
Right. For, I mean, the conservation of the local varieties.
Yes. But mainly people and company use commercial breed.
Yeah.
So we need to survey the diversity of local breed.
Sure.
And try to conserve this because it is environmentally and ecologically adapted to climate and environmental condition of Egypt.
Right.
And some of them have some character of disease resistant, like Fayoumi breed.
Yeah.
Fayoumi chicken breed is resistant to some disease.
Yeah.
So we need to conserve this breed for future. Maybe we need this gene for future.
Okay, and Chris, so your turn. What are you doing?
Studying grass cutter, we call it in Ghana, and I'm basically developing microsatellite markers or genetic markers to say, and these markers are important for identification of individuals and for studying genetic diversity of populations. Yeah, and our main goal is to be able to improve the grass cutter genetically in the long term, and so to be able to get to that main goal or that final goal, the first thing we need to do is to get genetic markers that we can use to genotype individuals if we want to do any genetic study on the grass cutter.
Okay, so both of you guys are working on these very common local species, call them even uncharismatic species. So have you guys found it difficult to raise awareness or get support from your own countries for your projects?
Yes, it's difficult because some people don't aware about conservation of like those species,
Yeah.
poultry and kinret or grass cutter. And the problem is conservation. Sometimes some people don't aware about conservation because they think that conservation only about the low number of population. but conservation also about the breed that we don't use this breed efficiently. I mean, those breed is used but not efficiently or completely used. So in future, the number will decrease because we don't use and don't manage.
That's right.
So that's what happened for poultry species in poultry breed in Egypt. They don't use this breed efficiently because they use commercial breed, highly production. So that's why I want to search the genetic diversity within local breed and compare with foreign or exotic breed.
Right. And how about the rats, the cane rats, grass cutters? I'm sorry.
Grass cutter, yes.
That seems like something that most people would find as a pest, or
yes, in Ghana, and for that matter, in most part of Africa where this species is available, it's considered as a pest in the wild because it invades croplands and eats crops, and people consider it as a pest. But then the most important thing is the domestication. I mean, even though it is a pest, it is also an edible meat. So it is very important. In my case, it's not the issue of conservation, I said, because the grass cutter is a rodent, and rodent populations are, you can imagine. So the issue is not about conservation of grass cutter as such, but it is about domestication and genetic improvement.
Okay, so that was some good stuff. Now, these interviews were done, we should say, a couple of years ago, so probably early in 2012. And so, as everyone knows, a lot can happen in 2 years. So we wanted to follow up these interviews with some updates. And so both of these students, Chris and Ramadan, have since graduated with their PhDs from Kyoto University, and they've returned to their respective countries and continue to do this good work there. So let's start with Chris. He's back in Ghana, so Miho was able to procure a rather large grant working with Chris in the northwest of Ghana for domestication of grass cutter.
So it's really a great opportunity for Chris to follow up on his research here at Kyoto, and he's still focusing on the domestication of the grass cutters and focusing on the poorer part of Ghana in the northwest. There has been a decades-long project in the south of the domestication of the grass cutters. However, in the poorer part of the region of the northwest, the grass cutters are hunted through fires. And so the bushmeat trade not only devastates the local populations of the grass cutters, but also through these bushfires, there's a great concern for conservation of the forests.
So it sounded like they've got the project already going up in the north. So they started a pilot study.
Yeah, they started a pilot study, and they selected a few farmers. And the farmers are going to be given a certain amount of grass cutters as a stock, and they will also be focusing on educating the local people. And he also actually plans to continue his collaboration here in Japan, and he has plans of coming back in November, I think.
Yeah, it's a really nice story so far. So in addition to the academic work that Miho has been getting involved in, there's also a really strong applied side to her work. And in this case with Ghana, you can see how it can really be for the betterment of the local communities, we hope, and also integrating with researchers from the local countries as well. So we wish them all the best of luck. And as for Ramadan, so he has also graduated, and now he is a lecturer at Behavioural University in the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine.
Yeah, and so Ramadan touched upon that he was looking for this gene on which the polymorphism might occur, and he was able to locate it on the LDHA gene. And this finding was published in the Journal of Poultry Science, and they were able to show that in Japanese pigeons, they were able to link this gene to racing ability, and that might have some implications for the Egyptian pigeons as well.
That's right. So he was wanting to use these, or he wanted to locate some regions of polymorphism in the genome that could be used as genetic markers for selection of racing ability in these pigeons. And so he did well to get that going. And so for these updates, we actually have to thank another student at PRI, Cynthia Garay, who in addition works with Miho in doing genetics of personality. And so she was friends with both Chris and Ramadan, and so she tracked them down, which was quite easy, and got these kind of updated information from them. So thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you, Cynthia.
And so I guess that wraps up this podcast. Sophie, how do you feel?
I feel great. It's so nice to hear that these researchers from Kyoto are still following up on all of their work and that they're actually getting some great results and being able to apply the field of genetics in a real setting.
So we'll be doing this podcast with you in a few years then?
Yeah, let's hope so.
All right, so that wraps it up. Thanks.
Thank you for listening.
See you next time.
You have been listening to the PrimateCast, a podcast series dedicated to the study and conservation of primates around the world. Brought to you by the Centre for International Collaboration and Advanced Studies in Primatology of the Primate Research Institute of Kyoto University. Visit us online at www.cisasp.pri.kyoto-u.ac.jp/news/podcasts and follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/thePrimateCast and on Twitter at the PrimateCast.